All right. I enjoyed my dinner. Hope you did too. And now, I hope you enjoy what we're about to do next. So, as I said earlier, our goal tonight is, of course, to inform, to celebrate, and to challenge. As we get into that, I want to remind you of our purpose. Now, the majority of you, I think, are familiar enough with Honduras Ministries to know what our purpose is. But I am also aware that there are people who may be here tonight for the very first time. This is when you're hearing about Honduras Ministries. So on our website, we publish that our purpose and vision are the following. Our mission is to see communities transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ and to break the bonds of poverty and oppression that are prevalent in these communities. Our vision, in other words, how we do this, is to initiate child enrichment programs in the ultra-poor communities throughout Honduras, providing access to education, food, and medical care. To rephrase that or to summarize that, I would say that our purpose is to make disciples. The tool that we use is the child enrichment program. And we're only able to do that because of the support and the partnership of many of you who are here in this room and others who may not be able to make it here tonight, but have been faithful for years. So thank you so much. And I hope that this is a partnership that you cherish and that you enjoy. I hope it's a blessing in your life. And I hope that we're going to be working together to build God's kingdom for a long time to come. Let me remind you and maybe reintroduce you to the board of directors for Honduras Ministries. Of course, you know our president, Jim Martin, and his wife, Frances. Our treasurer here at this front table. How'd you get to be in the front? I don't know, man. That's where they put you. Dennis Cho. Jennifer Genova. There she is, right there. Sitting, well, there he is. Yeah, you moved. John Badal. And way, way back in the back, Emma Vavracek. And my name is Dale Omart. So, thank you. One or two of you like me, so that's good. What we want to do tonight is to talk with you. Oh, one person I forgot. She came the farthest to be here tonight, Dr. Sandra Molina. Dr. Sandra is part of our work. She's part of our team in Honduras. She's going to be sharing here in a little while, so I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say, and I think it'll be a blessing to you. So, essentially, there are three celebrations or challenges, maybe, that I would like to share with you. I'm going to put them in the terms of involvement. Three ways that people can be involved in our work. One is to donate, one is to sponsor a child, and the other is to actually visit Honduras. And we'll break those down a little bit here as we go through the evening. Of course, in some ways, donating is where it begins. That's, of course, after a person learns about our ministry, feels a sense of calling, maybe, that God has put on their heart that they should be supporting the work that's going on, and so they decide to financially contribute. Jim is going to come forward here, and he's going to share with us some of the things that we have going on, some of the projects that we have right now, currently, and some of the things that we're going to be pursuing here in the coming year as groups come down to Honduras and things that we're going to be working on. So as he makes his way up, sorry, I should have actually got you coming up here ahead of time, huh? Here he is, Jim Martin. Just grab that mic. It's on. It's on.
Does it work? Hi, folks. Buenas tardes. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad to be here. And I just wanted to talk to you just a few minutes, I think, about some of the projects that we're doing in the country of Honduras. One of the things that we advertised on our website and asked for donations for is a dental chair. And can we get to see that a bit? There it is. We have a person who donated that $2,500. I don't know him. Tried to call him. His name is, I wrote it down, so I wouldn't forget, Eric Garst. Thank you, Eric. God bless you. You don't know how important this is for our ministry. In the past, we have dental work, of course, and dentists who come and treat our children. Mostly what they do is clean their teeth and pull them. Now we can repair them. Thank God Almighty. Right? So that's one of the projects that's already been fulfilled. But we have others. We want to build a classroom. Can we show that slide, please? Yeah, there we are. We want to build one similar to that. This is going to be twofold. This video, this photo that you see is a classroom that was built in San Jose. You will see in a few moments a virtual tour of that. We want to build another one similar to this in another community called La Fortunita. And the price tag on this right now is about $12,000. And that was before I came back here last August. I don't know what the price is now, probably around the same. But we've come across a different product that we can introduce into the country of Honduras. And I just attended a workshop with an organization that generates a material called aircrete. Now, aircrete is an infusion of cement with, believe it or not, liquid soap. It's lightweight. You would think it's unreasonable. But listen, you can build a 3-story building with this stuff. Foundations, columns, the whole thing. But the most important part of it is you save at least 30 to 40% of the material cost in order to use this stuff. So we're looking forward to introducing that into the country of Honduras. Hopefully, we can, for future projects, we'll be able to use this product called aircrete in order to do other construction projects as well. And we're hoping that this will grow into something. It's not available in the country of Honduras right now. So it's a product we want to introduce to the country of Honduras. And who knows? It may grow into a business for our ministry where that we can not only provide this and make cement blocks at a cheaper price or other panels or things that are building materials that goes along with that, but it's something that we want to do. We could generate jobs, provide more money for our ministry to help more people. That's what we want to do. So anyway, we're looking forward to getting that done. We have other projects that you can look at. We have a need for some tables and chairs. Now, the building that you just saw at San Jose, this is the inside of that. And these are the chairs and type tables. There's nothing wrong with the tables. They're pretty high for a little 3 or 4 year old or 5 year old. But we need tables and chairs. And I think they're like $1,140 for about 25 chairs and 5 or 6 tables. They would be fabricated from metal. We've got a contractor there that has agreed to do this. And that means that they would last a long time. Most of the chairs that you see are plastic. They run $5, $6 each. And of course, you know children, they break them quickly. They're not going to last long. We have 4 such places and 4 of our communities that need these. So if you're at heart, think about donating to that. Last but not least, we need to put bars and windows. You see, I've got one of my friends there in prison. His name's Dave Coleman. He's here tonight. We let him out. No, that's just a simple bar and a window. And that's what we want to do. And if you go back to the first photo we had there of the building at San Jose, this is where they go. We need to keep the animals out. We need to keep the thieves out. And if we have equipment there, tables, chairs, etc., we can lock them up, and people in the community won't take them, or other people that come around. But those are the things that we have. So open your hearts, whatever God puts on you, do it. So God bless you, and thank you for this time.
In the foyer opposite where you picked up your food, you'll see two tables kind of against the back wall. On this side, you're going to have the opportunity to sponsor a child. There are going to be a couple of iPads set up. You can actually set up your sponsorship tonight if you'd like to. On the other side, opposite from where you picked up your drinks, is a table that's devoted to donating for these projects. And so you can make a donation there before you leave tonight. Now, one of the things that we've done over the past couple of years, first it started when we did the Zoom kind of I guess I won't call it a Zoom, it was more just the virtual event during the pandemic. We took you on a visit to one of our communities, and that was an extremely popular thing. Tonight, we're going to take you to another one of our communities. We're going to break that part up into two different videos, but it's going to be a virtual visit to the city of San Jose. Let's play part one right now.
Hola, mi nombre es Manuel Gómez, soy uno de los colaboradores de Honduras Ministries y hoy vamos a ir a una de las aldeas que apoyamos, su nombre es San José de la Landa, y los invito a que nos acompañen. San José de la Landa es una aldea que está ubicada en el departamento de Choluteca, al sur de Honduras. Se encuentra a 15 kilómetros del centro de la ciudad y se puede llegar fácilmente por carretera. Según cuentan los primeros pobladores, la aldea tiene unos 150 años de existir. Fue fundada por una familia de apellido Landa, de allí el nombre de la Landa y José en honor al santo José, ya que la familia era católica. Honduras Ministries llegó a la comunidad a través de la pastora Susana Flores, quien vivió en la comunidad algunos años y fundó junto con su esposo la iglesia, que anteriormente pertenecía a otro ministerio. Posteriormente, este ministerio dejó de apoyar la obra y prácticamente fue abandonado. La pastora se fue a vivir a La Fortunita, donde conoció a los hermanos misioneros Jim y Francis, y al darse cuenta de cómo estaba la iglesia en San José, les habló y a la vez pidió apoyar a la iglesia. Y fue así como Honduras Ministries llegó a San José de la Landa y hasta el día de hoy continúa apoyando. Ha sido de mucha bendición para la comunidad y la iglesia.
Hola, mi nombre es Javier Chavarría, soy pastor de la iglesia Pan de Vida, de aquí de San José de la Landa. Crecí en este lugar sin mucha tecnología. Luego llegué a mis 18 años, donde empecé a trabajar y hasta la fecha de hoy sigo trabajando y sigo sirviendo en este lugar. Me involucré en el ministerio cuando tenía 18 años, era un líder de la iglesia y así fue que conocí a los hermanos misioneros Jim y Francis y poco a poco fui conociendo y de ahí fui pastor y posteriormente me involucré a trabajar con ellos a nivel ministerial. Decidí ser pastor básicamente porque amo servir, amo predicar la palabra de Dios, amo al Señor y amo que la gente pueda escuchar el mensaje de salvación.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Azucena Herrera, soy maestra de la Escuela Barro Contreras de la aldea San José de la Landa. En este centro elaboramos 2 docentes, de primero a sexto grado. La maestra Paola Álvarez atiende los grados de primero, segundo y tercer grado con una matrícula de 44 alumnos y mi persona atiende los grados de cuarto, quinto y sexto con una matrícula de 33 alumnos. Bueno, la satisfacción que me queda a mí como docente por años que tengo de laborar en este es de que ver el aprovechamiento que mis alumnos van teniendo día con día y el esfuerzo que ellos hacen por mantenerse siempre en la escuela, aunque algunas condiciones no las permiten, pero sí el padre de familia siempre aporta para que ellos continúen. Para ser nombrada en este centro, pues primero nos vamos a un concurso y nos seleccionan según el resultado que obtengamos. Bueno, el gobierno solamente nos da lo que es el pago del maestro y los edificios en cuanto a material didáctico y, por ejemplo, el beneficio de merienda, esa aportación de las empresas y también colaboración de los padres de familia. La matrícula es de 77 alumnos de primero a sexto grado. Bueno, las clases se inician en febrero, 1 de febrero, y finalizan el 30 de noviembre. Y las clases son de lunes a viernes, 5 días a la semana y 5 horas al día, de 7:30 a 12:30 del día.
Back to San Jose, we're going to learn a little bit about pulperias. I don't know if you know what a pulperia is. I was surprised the first time I went to Honduras, wondered what those things are. Well, we're going to learn a little bit about those. We'll also visit in the home of one of the families where a child is being sponsored, and then we're also going to visit the church building, see the structure that is there, and learn a little bit about the ministry that is being performed in San Jose. Dennis, if you'll start coming up to the stage right now. One of the things that we wanted to give you insight into was how our finances are being used. And so Dennis Cho, our treasurer, is going to share a summary and kind of an overview of how our finances were dispensed during 2021.
Thanks, Dale. All right, so it's kind of an eye chart up there. So just to give you a little background of how the money is spent, and I'm sure there's something that probably is on the top of you guys' mind. And so 2021 actually was a pretty good year for us, where we received about $220,000 in donations. And then our expenses were about $183,000 in total. And as you can see by the pie chart there, most of that is spent on salary and staff and teachers that are part of the CEC, the Child Enrichment Program that was talked about. And so you can see about 80% of the money is spent there. And then the ministry is basically, if there are needs, let's say if there's construction work or some sort of repair that needs to be done, that's helping out with some of the communities. And then the others are kind of, speaks for itself, transportation and then just utilities to make things work. And so this is how I feel as if our ministry is very different than some of the others that you may be familiar with, where there's huge overhead because they're just such a huge organization. Whereas for us, it's mostly the money mostly goes to the people, boots on ground as we speak, people that are doing the work. And so a lot of us here working are, they basically it's volunteer work, and so it's just so we try to save money on that from that perspective. So anyway, so Dale said I had 2 minutes, and I think my 2 minutes is up. But if you have any questions, you can catch me afterwards as far as the finances go. So again, really thank you for coming out this evening, and hopefully you guys can be part of this ministry going forward.
Thanks, Dennis. All right. Bruce Stroud, if you would make your way forward. We talked about donating. And I suppose you could say that sponsorship is a form of donating. It is, but it's a more specific, more targeted type of donation. And so tonight we want to chat with you from the perspective of people who are already sponsoring. We want to let them share a little bit about how they've experienced sponsorship, how they started, and what it's bringing about in their life. So Bruce Miller from Northland Mission Church, Stroud Brewer from Northside Christian Church. You guys come and visit, and we'll actually give Bruce the floor first.
Tie it up here to the drum set. So my name is Bruce, and my wife Paula is sitting over there, and we sponsor a few kids in Honduras. As Dale said, the church that we attend, Northland Mission Church, is a financial partner, if you would, with Honduras Ministries. And I just want to give you a little background of how we got to be at that point. And it's about 2018, Dale and Cindy, Steve, and whatever her name is over there, Jennifer, yeah, her, showed up at our church. And as you heard, Dale and Jennifer are both on the board, so when they walked in the door, Honduras Ministries walked in with them. And it was kind of like this. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Have I told you about Honduras Ministries? And she just went on from there. The next thing I know, she's made a couple of presentations at church. I'm sitting at one of these tables as a visitor. She invited, I think she bought 2 tables that night, and she filled it up, and I'm glad to say that those 2 tables are represented here again tonight. It was probably a few months after that, our missions committee at the church invited Francis and Jim to come and speak to us, and Jim told us his history with Honduras Ministries. And if that wasn't enough, they also arranged that Pastor Juan Carlos was there. So you talk about the Northland Mission Church was getting the full press, the full court press on what Honduras Ministries was about. And I don't know if you're a movie buff, but if you've seen the movie Show Me the Money, there's the part in there where Dorothy, who's played by Renee Zellweger, says to Jerry, who's played by Tom Cruise, "You had me at hello." I mean, if you're a church or if you're an individual, why wouldn't you want to be involved in a mission that is involved in kids' lives, in their physical health, their nutrition, their education, their socialization, but most of all, their salvation? And that's where we were. And like I said, since 2018, as a church and as individual people, we have been involved in this ministry. In 2019, Jennifer never sat still. She arranged for a mission trip, and there were 16 of us from our church went, having absolutely no expectations of what we would see or what we would do or how it would affect our lives. And it has a very large effect on our lives. Other than the excitement of falling out of the sky and landing there, and our first stop in the country was at a Wendy's. It was. You laugh if you haven't been there. You get to do that. But the countryside is just amazing. I grew up in the Southwest, and wherever I go, when I moved to Missouri, I was awed by the trees. Well, there was that many more trees and that many more rivers and that many more rocks, and it is just an amazing country. The food, wow. I don't care if we were eating at the hotel, the restaurant at the hotel, or if we were eating out for dinner at night, or if we were in Jim and Francis's home, the food was just amazing. To this day, I still drink Honduran coffee. And try as I might, I have tried to prepare plantains, those things that look like bananas, but they're not. We had those every morning for breakfast, and they were awesome. I've tried to do that at home, and it's been fruitless. Thank you. So anyway, part of our mission trip there, we went to all the communities that were involved in the ministry at that time. And the first community that we went to was, correct me if I say this wrong, Cerco de Piedra. That's my Texas accent there. And the things that I remember the most were the people. Everybody had a smile. Everybody wanted to greet you. Everybody wanted to touch you, wanted to shake your hand, wanted to know about you. Well, I don't speak Spanish, and they don't speak much English, but the smiles just told everything that I needed to know. And it was just an amazing thing. The worship services that we had while we were there, we went to, we went to just about every community, and I think every community we went to church, if you would. Amazing. I realized then that our God is bigger than the United States. Our God speaks Spanish. He speaks English. And that is awesome. Every community we went into, the presence of God, the presence of this ministry was readily available, readily seen. And it was in this particular village in Surco that we met a 9-year-old Estrella Fernando, I forgot her other name, Diaz. Anyway, her name is this long. She was only this tall. But she was a sight. And this was the first place we stopped. And the next thing I know, my wife is coming over, Paula's coming over and say, we got to take this girl home. Well, we can't take her home, but we could sponsor her. And we only have like 7 more places to go. And I'm just wondering how this is going to play out by the time we get ready to go home. But Australia, to me, her name reminded me of the people that we talk about in the Bible, where a person has a name that is significant to their cult, to their thank you, Dennis, personality, their appointed position for what God had them to wanted to do. And Australia, translated, means star. And she was a star, and she had us at Buenos Dias. So Australia lives with her mom and dad, and at the time, 1 brother. Now she has 2 brothers. She's in about the 3rd or 4th grade now. She's 12. She loves pink. She loves math. She likes playing with her girlfriends. Like most of the people in that country, she lives in a home that has a dirt floor, not electricity and no water. But she has a smile, and that's what's important. So we were fortunate in that while we were in Honduras, we got to visit with Australia twice, and her mother. Since we've come home to the States, we have to communicate with her through letters, emails, and I'll just give you a little brief description of that. We write out our email, we send it to Christian, and Christian, if you're listening, good evening to you. We send that to Christian, and he translates to Spanish. He told us early going on that Google Translator is not a good way to write your letters to people who speak Spanish, so we don't do that. Reverse happens when he translates the letter. He sends it to the representative, if you would, I don't know what to call that, who lives in the village, in the town, in the community where she lives. They get together, read it. She responds to us in the same way. It's kind of tedious, but it works, and that's all that matters. We sponsor other kids, and they don't live in Circa. They live in other communities, and the process is the same, and it has worked awesome for us. And we have learned. We have never met these other kids. Someday when we go back, we will do that, definitely. But at this point, we have not met them, but we know a lot about their lives because of this communication process that we have. We do get, when we get, this is the kind of letter we got. Fortunately, Christian translates this because we can't read that. We have got 2 of these in the 3 years that we've been sponsoring people that came to us in Spanish. Fortunately, we have Dennis, who is very fluent in Spanish. We have another member of our church who is not here tonight, Eleanor Gates, who is very fluent in Spanish, and we just gave this to Eleanor, and she translated it for us. And it's very cool. We get reminders about birthdays. I didn't get reminders about my kids' birthdays or my wife's birthday, but I get one from Honduras Ministries, and that's awesome because that way we don't forget. I would like to read just a couple snippets of letters that we've got over the years from these kids because I think it's poignant to the point that's trying to be made tonight. The first one came from a young man, and he's probably my favorite kid because he says, where'd it go? We received one letter addressed to the esteemed, that's with a big E, Bruce and Paula, and I've never been accused of being esteemed. So he went right to the top of the list of people that I like. Another letter said to my dear gentlemen, Bruce and Paula Miller, it is a pleasure to communicate to you that God blesses you. Amen. Thank you for sponsoring me. Thank God and you for that great decision. Another one says, to my dear Bruce and Paula, hello, it is a big joy that I take pen and write you this letter. I want to tell you some beautiful things I have learned about the life of Jesus. He is my Lord and my Savior. Now, I would say, more than likely, had it not been for Honduras Ministries, we would have not got those letters. We would have not had that conversation. And that's what their ministry is about. And it's just so fulfilling and so uplifting to me, sitting on this side of the fence, to see how they have touched the lives of these kids. And if you're sitting out there and you're thinking about sponsoring, if you're thinking about supporting this ministry, I would say that would be a great decision. And I've always wanted to do this, and it's that time of year, and I would just say that my name is Bruce Miller, and I approve this announcement.
Well, we're glad you're approving. So has anybody ever sent you a letter calling you esteemed?
Sure. No, I can't say that they have.
Well, tell us how you came to be a sponsor for a child.
I'm Strad Brewer, go to Northside Christian Church. I want to say it was probably about 2016, 2017, and it was a combination of different things. Jim and Francis came to our church, I believe. They brought a couple, I think maybe either Christian or Manuel and Zabadell, I believe. Told us a story. And on top of that, I think that's when my heart started stirring. A little bit later on, our church had sent a group there, I think it was 2016, and coming back and hearing some of the stories. And I was talking to my wife about it, and I think that was about the time that we really felt that we wanted to do something. And this was a very, a low investment. I mean, at the time it was $43 a month. I mean, that's so much doable just with all the work they do. So at that time, we talked with our kids, actually. Our daughters were, I think, probably 15 and 13 about the time. And so we actually looked at the website, and we chose a girl named Leslie. She was about 9 years old at the time, and just looking at her, our heart hit us, and that's the one we chose. So we started doing the sponsorship. About 2017, there was an opportunity to go visit Honduras. So I had never been on a mission trip in my entire life. Always wanted to go, but here there was an opportunity to do so. So my youngest daughter, Ryan, was 14 at the time, and she was interested in going. So that was great. And my nephew Dylan, he went with us also. So it was a great trip to go down there, and we got to meet Leslie. She was in Cerca de Piedra. So we got to bring some gifts to her. We met her. Her grandfather was actually the pastor of that village there. So it was just a great experience there. And I think that we helped out with one of the wells at La Fortunita was needed some work done. So it was a very simple, I think $100, and our group was able to help do that. So going down there, it really wasn't about building churches. That kind of work is for the men down there to do. But the program itself to help these kids, educate them so they get past the sixth grade, was kind of unique for missionary work, because I hadn't really heard about missionary work with that. It's mostly about planting churches. So this was something that was really different. Going down there was a wonderful experience, and we actually went down there again in 2022. My daughter went with me again, and we got to meet Leslie again. So now she's 15 years old, and we got to take some more presents to her, and it was just great just watching her. I mean, the simplest things like hair ties, sunglasses, I mean, they really get a joy out of that. And I definitely have to echo what Bruce said. Pretty much everything he said is truth. When you go to visit, you see these kids who have so little, but they have so much joy. It really humbles you. I can't really say much more than that. It was a joy to be around them, and even though there was a language barrier, and Google Translate does not do well in that type where there's no reception. It takes a long time. But still, we were able to communicate, and it was a great experience, and I'm definitely going back down there again. Here, our next opportunity. The food down there is wonderful. I mean, the experience is just overall just great. I'll tell you, for what it is that they do, the simple $48 a month, I mean, anybody can do it, I think. And I came back this time, to be honest with you, and I have a prayer and a vision that these childs, every single one of them that's on our website, should be able to get sponsored.
Amen.
There's no reason between all of us here, the churches that are involved, that sponsoring, there's no reason why we can't get these children sponsored.
Amen.
So.
Amen. You guys both talked about the interaction you have ongoing. It's not just going to Honduras. You have interaction throughout the year. So was it once a month? How often do you guys interact with the kids that you sponsor?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not really good at letter writing, but with, like Bruce said, with Christian there, we can get an email and it will show a letter that they've written, and it's very easy just to respond back an email. I mean, these days, that's how most of us communicate anyway. So we'll at least get 1 to 2 letters, at least we have a year, usually around Christmas time, and maybe one other. So it gets very easy to respond to them.
Awesome.
I agree that. Okay. Yes. I am not very good with letters either. As we were getting ready to come here tonight, Paula's in the office. She's typing out an email to each one of our kids that we sponsor, and she's folding them up and putting them in an envelope. And I say, you understand that when I get there, I'm going to tell them we don't mail these things. We send them to Christian on the email through the Wi-Fi in the sky, pie in the sky, and he's going to translate them. She's fold them up, put them in an envelope, and she's probably going to hand them to Francis before we leave. And I'm thinking, okay. But yes, we hear from our kids that we sponsor, typically on birthdays and Christmas, kind of like I hear from my kids.
Guys, thanks so much for sharing your experience. We appreciate that. I think it's helpful for us to really encourage one another when it comes to this experience and being able to sponsor kids. Right now, we're going to go back to to San Jose and see the rest of the video that has been prepared for us tonight. Thank you.
Actualmente hay 10 pulperías en la comunidad de San José de la Landa. En las pulperías se pueden encontrar lo básico en productos de aseo y de alimentos para consumo diario, y su venta es al por menor. Hay otras pulperías que ofrecen a sus clientes hasta ropa y juguetes, pero eso depende de su capacidad económica. Los dueños de estas pulperías en esta comunidad tienen que viajar a Choluteca para traer productos que no llegan hasta ese lugar. Los distribuidores de productos llegan a la comunidad, pero al menos una vez a la semana. Estas pulperías son instaladas en sus propias casas para lograr ahorrar en costos de renta de un edificio.
Hola, le doy la bienvenida a mi hogar. Sean bienvenidos, ¿verdad? Y gracias por la oportunidad que me dan de expresar estas palabras, y agradecerle al Ministerio Pan de Vida, Honduras Ministries, por la ayuda que nuestros hijos reciben, ¿verdad? Yo soy una de las madres beneficiadas por mis hijas, que ellas han recibido esta ayuda, la canasta familiar, la canasta que les dan ahí en la iglesia. Bueno, es de mucha ayuda, de mucho provecho, de mucha bendición. Los niños aquí, bueno, ellos los motivan en las clases, ellos reciben sus clases, ahora ellos se les ve bastante el cambio, ¿verdad? Agradecerles porque antes ellos tal vez porque ustedes saben, aquí uno de pobre no tiene las maneras de cómo sacar a sus hijos, ¿verdad? Y ahora, gracias al ministerio, los niños tienen sus saliditas, los llevan a bañar, los llevan a pasear, a comer, y ellos se motivan bastante porque cuando les dicen los vamos a llevar a comer, ellos se alegran, se motivan bastante, y agradecerles por poner esa sonrisa en nuestros hijos, ¿verdad? Yo de madre les agradezco en el nombre de todas las madres de los niños beneficiados de aquí, les agradezco de corazón y les pido a Dios que los bendiga siempre a ustedes por la ayuda que nosotros estamos recibiendo aquí, y que el Señor les siga bendiciendo a cada uno de ustedes para que esto siga adelante, y gracias por esto, ¿verdad?
Hola, mi nombre es Carolisa Mar Ordóñez Armas, tengo 14 años de edad, soy una de las jóvenes patrocinadas del Ministerio Pan de Vida, Honduras Ministries. Llevo casi 6 años en este programa y ha sido una experiencia muy bonita para mí. De aquí a unos 5 años me miro estudiada para una policía. Me gusta su uniforme y cómo trabaja. Gracias.
Las familias de la comunidad están siendo muy bendecidas a través del patrocinio de sus hijos y también recibiendo una canasta mensualmente conteniendo alimentos. También sus hijos reciben útiles, lo cual les sirven para continuar sus estudios a nivel escolar como secundaria. El ministerio ha sido mucha bendición para la comunidad, especialmente con la construcción de un templo donde se alaba, se adora al Señor y donde todas las personas de la comunidad pueden venir. También con lo que es el centro básico donde muchos jóvenes están estudiando. Ellos no pueden ir a Choluteca y se quedan aquí para posteriormente continuar sus estudios en la ciudad. En nuestra iglesia tenemos cultos los días martes, cultos de oración, los jueves tenemos cultos de enseñanza, los sábados tenemos cultos para jóvenes y los domingos cultos generales. También realizamos algunas actividades como cultos unidos, campañas, salimos a evangelizar y tenemos también discipulado.
Thank you, Katie Baker. She just sponsored her child. It thrills my heart. We've had another one just before the ministry started, or before the program started, so thank you. So our ministry, Honduras Ministries, exists to change the lives of people by helping them become disciples of Jesus Christ. Our main strategy, as you can see in our video, is our child enrichment program. This helps us connect with the communities where we serve and connect with their families. It is because of your sponsorships and overall support that makes this possible. We couldn't do it without you. We can't do it without your help and support. So we are excited, very excited, to see what God is going to do in the coming months. We don't know, but He always has something grand. So, on behalf of our families in San Jose and the other communities where we serve, thank you for your partnership. God bless.
You've heard Christian mentioned. Christian Harkenall is one of our people in the office in Choluteca, and he is the one that put both videos together for us, and so thankful for his skills. And of course, Manuel Gomez, who you met at the very beginning and who served as kind of our host or our tour guide. Both of those guys are super people. Those of you who have been to Honduras have had the chance to be blessed by getting to know them, and if you have a chance to go, that's one of the highlights of the trip, really is. Dr. Sandra, would you come up and join us, please? We want to make a transition now to talk a little bit about what a person might experience if they were to go visit Honduras. It's not just going for vacation or to sightsee. We get stuff done, and part of that has to do with what Dr. Sandra is able to do, and we want to support her. We're thankful for her partnership in the ministry in Honduras, and she's going to explain a little bit about her experience as part of this ministry. So, Dr. Sandra.
Hello.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Es un placer estar con ustedes.
It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Un gusto saludar a los que ya conozco.
Good to see everyone that I know.
Y qué bueno por las personas que recién conocen el ministerio.
And it's good that the people that are starting to get to know the ministry are here.
Y pues quiero decirles que pues las misiones se hacen orando, dando y yendo.
The ministries that you do, praying, giving, and going to the country.
Y somos un grupo que nos fortalecemos, no hay ni la oración, ni el dar o el ir, son una más importante que otra.
None of the three ways that you can help the ministry are more important. They're all equally important to really enforce and build the strength of the ministers that are serving in Honduras.
Gracias por el apoyo de todas las formas.
Thank you for all the ways that you help us.
Bueno, mi nombre es Sandra Molina.
My name is Sandra Molina.
Soy médico general.
I'm a general doctor, general physician.
Bueno, me gradué hace mucho tiempo, en el 1998.
I just recently graduated from medical school.
Tengo ya bastante recorrido.
She has lots. She's done a lot of work and has a lot of experience.
Pero doy gracias a Dios por la oportunidad que me dio de estudiar medicina.
She gives thanks to God for the opportunity to study medicine.
Ya que en aquel momento solo el anhelo era ser médico, pero que ahora puedo comprender que Dios tiene un propósito para cada uno, ¿verdad?
She didn't know when she started why she was learning to be a physician, but she knows now that God always has a plan.
Y no me arrepentiría porque sé que la carrera ha servido de mucho para el servicio del Señor.
And there's no reason to regret her decision to become a doctor because it's enabled her to serve God faithfully.
Actualmente estoy trabajando con el gobierno en un centro de salud.
She's working primarily for the government in a health center.
Pero anteriormente, bueno, estaba desempleada. Mi primer trabajo que tuve fue en una institución cristiana, una clínica cristiana.
The first job she ever had was in a Christian clinic.
Donde yo pude ver que se podía atender a un paciente en una forma integral.
Where she learned that she could have an integrated relationship with the patients that came to be with her.
Esta clínica estaba a 4 horas de la ciudad donde yo vivía y yo viajaba los fines de semana a mi casa para visitar a mi familia.
She spent all week in the area where she was working because it was a 4-hour drive to her home, and she would just go home on the weekends to be with her family.
Entonces, el viajar en un autobús por 4 horas me permitía poder hablar con Dios.
So the 4-hour bus ride back and forth was a great time to talk to the Lord.
Y fue en ese entonces cuando me sinceré con Dios y le dije, Señor, aquí está mi vida para tu servicio.
And it was one of those moments, it's one of those moments where she got really sincere with God and just said, Lord, use me however you see fit.
Y Dios realmente cuando uno le promete, Él cumple. Y realmente Él ha establecido conexiones.
Okay, so when you say something like that to God, He takes you up on it, and she's learned a lot of lessons.
Y bueno, la forma en cómo yo pude conocer el ministerio fue a través de un amigo de mi hermano.
She learned about Honduras Ministries through a friend of her brother.
Él en ese momento estaba también apoyando el ministerio y me invitó para apoyar el ministerio y yo con mucho gusto dije sí.
Okay, this friend introduced her to the ministry. He was helping the ministry as well, and she with great joy said, "Oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. I'd love to help."
Y pues para mí es un privilegio poder estar en el ministerio Pan de Vida.
For her, it's an honor and a privilege to be part of the Bread of Life ministry.
Porque me permite poder cumplir lo que yo le prometí al Señor.
Because this ministry is the way that she can give her promise. Oh, that's a tough one to translate. That she can show that this is her opportunity to fulfill her promise to the Lord.
Y desde entonces, pues me ha encantado, servir al Señor de esta forma y puedo ver en cada niño, pues, la gratitud que tienen porque realmente no solamente reciben una atención médica, sino que también del conocimiento de Dios.
It's a great joy for her to serve in this ministry, and it's amazing to see the kids, the gratitude that they have, not only for the physical or the medical treatment they receive, but also that they get to know the Lord through this ministry as well.
Y poder también ver pues a las familias de estos niños y poder tener una comunicación con ellos y establecer amistades también, ¿verdad?
And to get to know the families, to see that they understand where this help is coming from, that it's coming from the Lord, and to build a relationship and a friendship with the family and the parents as well is great.
Actualmente estamos, por cada brigada vemos alrededor de 400 niños que atendemos, 2 veces al año se puede decir.
When they get these groups together, they usually see around 400 children during the process of that time. So it's a great ministry for the groups to be a part of.
Y puedo ver pues realmente el crecimiento que estos niños han tenido. Nosotros apoyamos el ministerio junto con una doctora que es odontóloga y ella ve el cambio también en su dentadura de los niños que han mejorado ostensiblemente.
Okay. It is clear over the course of these years that she's been doing this, and she's also saying that there's a dentist that also goes with them, and both of them have been able to see that there's been real change, health-wise and dental-wise, for these children over the course of these years that they've been serving. So it's really been beneficial to the children to have the doctor and the dentist come to visit the villages.
Yo creo que ella va a estar encantada con la silla que han donado. Muchísimas gracias.
And the dentist is going to be super, super happy to have this chair. She's very, very happy.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
And that's it. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Dennis Knight from Northland Mission Church, thank you for translating. Jeremy, Rusty, Alyssa, you all could join me on stage. We're thankful for the work that Dr. Sandra has done over the years. The first year that we went, I think we saw almost 700 kids in the span of like 5 or 6 days. And by the way, one of the things that I'm thankful that it's not about keeping meticulous records about who qualifies for care. When we go into the communities and do a medical brigade, it's the entire community. We see the kids, whether they're in the program or not. We see the adults oftentimes, whether they have kids in the program or not. And I watch Dr. Sandra as she just patiently listens to the people and helps them to determine what type of care they need. It's a blessing to have her as part of our ministry. I hope you have a chance to visit with her a little bit, work through the language barrier as best you can, but just express your appreciation to her tonight. We've invited Jeremy Eubanks from the Northland Northside Christian Church. And Rusty Fulling and his daughter Alyssa are here. What church are you going to now?
Heartland Community.
Okay. I've known that for a while. I should have remembered that. And actually, Alyssa is a pastor, a youth pastor, or student pastor?
Children's pastor.
Children's pastor, locally, right?
Yes, at Westside Church of the Nazarene in Olathe.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about trip leadership, because obviously these trips require some coordination, right? You guys, you all helped out in various ways in trips, but let's talk a little bit about your experience putting together trips. When was the first time you went, Jeremy? It's been a long time, right?
The first time I went to Honduras was 2009.
Okay.
Jim and Francis were still living in Choluteca at the time, and it was a very small trip. There was 3 of us that went on that trip.
Okay.
But it was right on the heels of the church I was at the time was in Olathe, had been building the church at Cerca de Pedro. Okay. And so I'd seen pictures and I heard stories and people that they wanted me to talk to and all that. And so it was kind of an observation trip, saw that, and then I wasn't able to go again until 16, and I've been in 16, 18, and 22. So
you've seen changes incrementally over
right, which has really been the benefit for me, and I guess for our churches, being able to say, I've seen some change over time, both in how the ministry works, but in the communities itself. As Dr. Sandra was talking about, there's been real change in the lives of those children, but it's observable. You don't have to have a medical degree to see it. My first trip in 2009 to La Fortanita, I don't know that we were really warmly received when we were there, and I'm sure everybody loved that we were there at the time. Yeah. But that place has changed just radically, and it's one of my favorite places to go. Awesome. It's been amazing. And the consistency, I would say, also in the people in the ministry has been like as Manuel and Christian and of course Jim and Francis. But seeing that go and the trust that the local people have in them and their faithfulness, that has been really, really encouraging to me and to see. Yeah.
Rusty, when was the first time? I think we were all together on one trip, right? Your first one?
Yeah, I think it was 2011, and our role at that time was Alyssa was going to teach a sewing class, and so I told both our daughters when they turned 16 we'd do a father-daughter trip. I'm thinking Branson, Missouri, and she picked Honduras. I'm thinking, okay, that's a little further south, so. But anyway, it was a great experience, and I will say, as a father of a young teenage daughter, getting off the airport, the airplane in Honduras and all the security, little intimidating, but we got over it quick, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was wonderful. That was our first time to get acquainted, and we've kind of carried on this conversation about how to develop the ministry. Alyssa, tell us your point of view. You were young at the time.
Yes, I was 16. It was my first time out of the country and didn't speak Spanish, but it was good to go with a parent, with my dad, to have that experience for the first time. And Andrea Martin was my translator. She was 15, and everywhere we went, she would translate for me, and it was amazing. I was connected to a community around me. I want to thank you for going to La Fortanita in 2009. I had no idea, because in 2011 we went and felt warmly received, and I met this young girl named Lucy Dahlia, who was I think 14 at the time. So we were all young teenagers, and she stood up at the church meeting and gave a testimony about something she heard on the radio, and I'm like, she's just like me. We might live worlds apart, but we were both teenagers following God, so that was really cool.
That's awesome. So let's think or talk a little bit about the difficulty, though. I mean, it's one thing the first time you go, whether you're really planning the trip or just going along. You all have been in roles of leadership in the trip. Tell us how was that? How difficult was that? What were some of the struggles to pull a trip together, and what did you encounter?
It's not terribly difficult. I mean, the logistics and the groups I've taken have always been small. Which has helped. I think it gets a little more complicated when you're having to do the hotel and stuff, especially where Jim and Francis have now, and they have the upper room. The last 2 groups I've taken, we've had guys up in that upper room, and the ladies have stayed in the main guest house, and we're all right there together. We've had groups about 8, 10 max, and that's worked out really well. The thing that's been really helpful, and the thing I probably need to do better of, the coordination of this is, it's some of that. not debriefing, but pre-briefing, the getting ready, things that you need to do a better job of preparing for entry for what you'll see. Sometimes I've been a few times, I just take it for granted that a lot of people haven't experienced this, and so they don't know what they're doing. Things like my daughter went on this last trip, and it was her first time, but freaking out that the guards at the grocery store are carrying, shotguns. And she's like, oh my gosh, man, that's just normal. You're going to see that. And, but prepping for some of that. And the ministry helped give us some notebooks, and we kind of worked through some of that, and that was helpful. We need to do a little bit better job of going over some of those ministries. I know John had prepared the first trip that I was a part of at Northside. John Bedell also was on that trip, and he helped lead that trip. And I was just kind of I didn't lead that trip. I went along with John as he did it, and that was really, really helpful. But the ministry does everything that we need to do. So once you're in country, I just kind of go, wherever you guys take us, we're going to go. It's not like I can read the signs and go anywhere else anyway. But they do a great job of taking care of us, taking us to restaurants where we can eat or eating at the house, and you don't have to worry about a lot of things, which was really nice. So it's getting people to get their passports. Right. Now there's some immigration work that has to be done online before you go, so many hours before you hit the plane. Some of that coordination that they did a really good job, and Jim did a great job of reminding me, hey, you need to get, this is the link, your people need to get this filled out so many hours before you can go. And that was with COVID restrictions and all that kind of stuff. But
Rusty?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they don't warn you that one day you will be absolutely sick on your, the stomach. So that's one thing that wasn't in the brochure, but really the ministry does a great job preparing. I will say somebody who came back from a trip, I remember asking one time, how do you come back? And I thought, it's not only preparing people to go, but to come back, because some of the experiences you have are, just incredible, and coming back and sometimes taking things for granted or feeling guilty about, wow, I can turn on water and it comes out, So I think that those are the things that not only preparing ahead of time, but preparing people to come back. So thank you for that. It's nice to have a pastor and a family to adjust the. Other than that, I think ages of kids. There are areas that aren't safe, and so making sure that you're educating and preparing younger people in that. We've had a chance to go, I think, 5 times now, and it's just we just come back just fulfilled in our hearts every time. So that's been great.
Alyssa, talk about the impact that you feel like the ministry or going on trips to Honduras has had in your life overall.
Oh, do I have an hour? No, I'm just kidding. It was huge. I was able to go on a couple mission trips with my churches, local around the U.S., and those were always trips where we were kind of a piece in the assembly line. And you had a purpose, but everyone else kind of had the same purpose, and we're all doing the same thing. But when I was invited to come to Honduras, I was invited to teach a sewing class, and sewing is something that I love to do. And so it was kind of like, God has given me specific gifts, and he has a place for me to use them. And so that was huge, and I think definitely impacted my life and my career and my calling.
Rusty?
Yeah, as far as impact, it's fascinating. Somebody had asked, hey, how did you even get connected to Honduras Ministries? And a gentleman named Tom Mitchell, who was actually on the board. In fact, don't join the board unless you want to be a promoter of the ministry, I think is the thing. But Tom had us over for his for dinner one night, and Jim and Francis happened to be there and started sharing about the ministry. And it's a little bit contagious, because I started talking about it with friends and at the gym, and I remember this guy coming up and saying, hey, I don't believe in all this God stuff, but I want to support your trip and buy those sewing machines that your daughter's going to teach with. And I thought, wow, what a cool deal. That God was working in this guy's heart, even before, he had accepted Christ. So I think those are some of the impacts, that just day-to-day stuff. So really, really neat.
Yeah. Jeremy, you've seen, since 2009, you've seen the development of the ministry. Talk a little bit about the impact from your point of view, having kind of the historic view, looking out long term.
Been able to witness a lot of life change, not only with people there, but also some of the people that we've taken down to just have a better perspective on things. I've got to watch the ministry kind of narrow things down, which has been helpful. I think my first interactions from 2007, 2009, honestly, there was a little scattershot. And when they really started drilling down on the child enrichment program, you saw, I just think, some really life change and some things take off in different communities and flourish. And it's also easy to communicate to your people, what are you doing, right? It's, I'm praying for this kid, and I hope to go get to see this kid, but I see the changes that are going, and it's kind of wild. I have pictures when I went on this last trip. The boy that I had been sponsoring has graduated and through the program, and so I have a new boy named Freddie, and Freddie's like 6, I think, 7. But my pictures from my 2009 trip, I have a picture of his mom, who at the time probably was 19, somewhere in there. They had the girls' soccer team that was part of La Fortnita, and we had brought soccer balls and whatever. And so I had a picture of her, and Pastor Susanna was on that team and all that stuff. And so I was pulling up pictures of that trip, and I didn't know. I'd seen Freddie's picture. I met Freddie, but then I met Freddie's mom, and I'm like, I've seen her before. Wow. And so we had some conversations, and that was really, really cool to see.
I love hearing that, because as you mentioned from the very beginning, the opportunity to see it develop, not just going on a one-time only trip, but to take multiple trips over the course of time, and to see God's hand in a way that you wouldn't be able to see it if you just went once.
Right.
You get a chance to see what God is actually doing. The more you visit the area, the more interaction you have with the area.
Yeah. I want to circle back to something that you brought this up. I've been on 4 trips. Of my 4 trips, 2 of those 4 trips, I had somebody get sick, whether it was me or what. We had a few of our people got sick. And I know that's one of the hindrances, so people talk about this. And I don't want that to be a detriment, because they were really, really quick. Like, we made a text message or a phone call to Manuel. Manuel showed up with some Cipro, and within a matter of hours, everybody was on the mend. And it really didn't stop us from doing what we came to do. It's a story you tell at some point, but sometimes because it's a funny story you tell, it freaks people out. And they're like,
it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But sometimes it kind of freaks people out. I'm like I said, 4 trips, it's only happened to me once. People I was with twice, but not that big a deal.
Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, you hear, oh yeah, come on this trip and get sick. No, that's not the main thing. It does happen though. So, and then that's going to happen anytime you travel to a different area. So, guys, on behalf of the ministry, thanks for the trips that you guys have coordinated. Thanks for all your support. Looking forward to how God continues to work through our partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, a few years ago, we started talking about the big ask. The moment where you come to the point where you bring it to a question of, what are you going to do? We've shared a lot of information. Some of it might be brand new to you. Some of it may be just building on what you already knew. I love the video and how Manuel and Christian were able to give us insight into how San Jose developed and how it came into existence, what pulperías are about, and how that all fits in the economy of a community. Ultimately, what this is all about, though, is how can we move the ministry forward together? And we've talked about 3 ways of being involved. And my question to you is very simple. Is there something in you, God's Spirit maybe, who is prompting you to take a step of deeper involvement? Stroud brought out the idea, put up a vision in front of us about getting every child that is on the website sponsored. There are kids way beyond our capacity to put on the web. I mean, we have more kids to sponsor, more communities to go to. And it's not going to happen overnight, but step by step, as each of us consider, what is God calling me to do? Is there a new child that I can take on? Can I fit a trip to Honduras into my calendar next year? Those are the questions I'd like to ask you to consider over the next couple of minutes. I'm going to pray, and essentially we're going to be dismissed, although I hope you don't speed out the door. We can just kind of hang around, visit. I've mentioned to you before that there are stations in the foyer, one station on this side, so you go out the doors, turn to the right. That's where you can sponsor a new child tonight. Go out the door, turn to the left. That's where you will be able to make a donation to one of the projects that we talked about so that we can take steps down the road. If you are interested in finding out more about going on a trip, the calendar seriously is beginning to fill up for next year. Some of these groups would have the capacity to have individuals join them. So let's say you were interested in finding out, you've never been to Honduras, you were interested in finding out what it was all about. Let us know. We'll be happy to try to connect the dots so that hopefully you would have the opportunity to go down on a look-see trip yourself. As Jeremy mentioned, that he went on one. I met John on basically a look-see trip for the ministry. And it's an opportunity to do more than just hear about it, do more than just look at what's on the website, but to actually see it in operation and to experience the love of the kids in the community. I wish I had thought about this picture to put up on the screen before, but this just came to mind. And the somewhat icy reception that our ministry had in La Fortunita the first few times that Jim and Francis went there. It was about 2015-16. John and I were together on a trip, and he snapped a picture. There are about 20 kids in front of me, and we're in like this giant wrestling match. There's a scene at the end of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer where they push the abominable snowman off the cliff. That's kind of what I was being, the abominable snowman, and they were all trying to push against me, and John snapped that picture. That's one of my favorite memories and experiences. There's no language barrier there. There's no cultural barrier there. We're just enjoying each other. And that's seriously what happens when you go on one of these trips. So if you've never been to Honduras, consider going this coming year. And I'm serious that your life will change. Let me pray. You think about, is God asking me to take another step in my support for this ministry? And when I'm done, we'll be concluded for the evening. Dear God in heaven, you are the God of the world, not just of Kansas or Missouri. You're the God of Honduras. You're the God of the United States. We are connected by your kingdom and by your spirit. It's exciting for us to see how you are building your kingdom in this world. It's exciting for us to think about the fact that we've been invited to be a part of your work, and somehow, in a way that is so mysterious, you weave together all of our skills and abilities, all of our gifts, everything that we have to offer. You weave that all together into this wonderful tapestry of beauty. And so, Lord, we thank you, and at the same time we ask you, what's the next step? How can we be even more effective for your kingdom? How do you want to work through us? I pray that you will bless this group here today. You'll give us each insight, a sense of vision, a direction for our ministries, for our lives, for our involvement specifically with Honduras Ministries. I pray for the people who may be joining us via the live stream here right now. And I pray also for people who might be joining us in the weeks ahead. I pray for watch parties. Maybe even that there will be people who are here tonight who would be interested in hosting a watch party for their friends. But that there will be an ongoing process where people are introduced to the ministry, they learn, they're attracted, they visit, they get involved, and their lives are changed from that moment forward. I pray for that all to happen. We pray for your Holy Spirit to orchestrate all of this. And we thank you again for the opportunity to be involved. Be glorified in our lives and in this ministry. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you all.